Welcome into another episode of the Newport This Week video podcast series. I'm Bill Bartholomew. Remember, you can find each and every episode of this series at newportthisweek.com or on the Newport This Week YouTube channel. And today, look, kind of a double topic around the MLK Center. And I guess let's get it started. Heather, if you want to introduce yourself and explain what it is that you do.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Heather Hole Strout. I'm the executive director of the Dr. Martin Luther King Community Center here in Newport, in our brand newly renovated community room here at the center.
Well, let's talk about that aspect of things, the renovation. There's an article in Newport This Week. The headline, MLK Community Center cuts the ribbon on renovated building after a 13-month construction project. Lucky number 13 here. And so let's talk about the specifics around what were the renovations, what went into it, what was the need that is being served here.
Sure. So, we started this process several years ago. I'd say about 4 years ago now, of thinking about how our space was. We were really quickly growing out of our space year over year, especially for the past 10 years. We've seen about a 20% increase in the people that we're serving. And I could just tell you, about 10 years ago, we served about 100,000 meals per year out of the center in the form of all of our hunger relief programming. This year, we served 1 million meals out of the center. So you can see from 100,000 to 1 million that we're talking about that kind of growth over the period of 10 years. That is because we've expanded our programming significantly, but it's also because the need is increasing rapidly. Just opening our brand new food pantry for the first time this week. On the first day, we saw about a 35% increase compared to a normal pantry day in our previous pantry. Now part of that is obviously people are wanting to see the new space, but a big part of that is just that hunger is growing and growing in our community. So this project is hoping to address meeting the need. We're going to be expanding our pantry hours, adding more volunteers into our programs, and this project also is allowing us to do some new programming, such as our warming center, which has been a huge need in this community for a very long time. And so we are serving as a 7-night a week from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. as a warming center for anybody who does not have a place to stay warm during those hours. And then during the daytime, there are a lot of different sites that offer warming center accommodations when we can't do that, because as you can see behind me right now, they're setting up for our lunch program, which will be starting in about 20 minutes. So this room will be full of people in about 20 minutes eating lunch. So, we have other programming going on in this space throughout the day. So we can't be a 24-hour day warming center, but certainly open. Anybody is open to come here for a free lunch Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday.
Well, there's no question, and we certainly should touch on the need that comes from the warming center piece. But look, food insecurity, it doesn't grab headlines the way it ought to, not only in terms of food banks and so on and so forth, but also culturally appropriate food, dietary,
Yes.
Meeting the needs from a dietary standpoint of your clients. These are all pieces that are way too overlooked, way too taken for granted. You rarely see it in any kind of headline conversation, yet it is a crisis moment here. There's no doubt about it. So you're super serving a community that I think is particularly just on the ground. When's the last time you walked down the street and somebody asked you, you hear the crisis of the unhoused, the housing crisis as a whole, very conversational, very much in the lexicon of the average person. Food insecurity crisis, not there. Why do you think that is?
I just think people, they hear that there are food pantries, so they think that it's all set. And it's not. So, keeping food on our shelves is a constant challenge. But I think more importantly, it's healthy food, because our community is only as healthy and as strong as the weakest among us. And if we are serving people ramen noodles for 3 meals a day, then that's only going to come back in the form of high blood pressure, medical issues. People end up in the hospital and it becomes a bigger issue. So one thing that we really try to combat here at the MLK Center is healthy food, making sure that we have access to a lot of variety of fresh produce. We have a whole part of our pantry now is just these beautiful produce tables just filled with fresh produce. Also milk, meat, eggs, things that everybody should have access to. Hunger is something that we should not have in our country. Our country knows and should do better, but we want to make sure that we are giving people access to food that they deserve.
Yeah, there's the statement you just made right there. And I'd even go so far as to say in this world, we ought not have
Well,
hunger.
that's true.
But certainly I completely agree with you. And when it comes to Newport County, it's completely unacceptable. It's an utter outrage that there is this crisis, yet it's happening. You're doing great work in this arena. Let's talk about the warming shelter piece. Big difference, and you outlined it pretty clearly, the difference between an overall, a general shelter and a warming center. It really comes down to hours and services, things of that sort. Yet warming centers are critical because there's a lot of people who are unhoused who don't want to stay in a shelter. Yet in critical moments, deep freeze, super cold, whatever the weather may be, and whatever the situation is, they need somewhere to go. That's where the warming shelter comes in. It's not just a spillover from the shelter system. There's a lot of people who don't take advantage or want to be in the shelters. You pick up that need. What are you seeing on the ground so far this winter as we're really starting to get cold right now?
Well, I think all you have to do is drive around our community or walk around our community to see that it's a crisis, and it's a growing crisis. There are not enough shelter beds in our state to accommodate all of the people who don't have a place to sleep. So that's the first issue. But you are right. There are some people that choose to not live in a shelter, but on the coldest of nights need a place to come. So this is an emergency warming center. We're not a shelter. We do not have beds. This room behind me, we have sleeping mats and blankets. It's a very warm room. We have a TV that we can show movies. We provide snacks and drinks, but it's really an emergency place to keep people out of the cold. Because nobody should have to sleep outside when the temperature is, especially what it's going to be this weekend. On the first night, we had 18 people. We've had between 15 and 20 people since we've opened here at the MLK Center. Prior to that, it was happening down at St. John's Church until our building was ready, and they were amazing there, accommodating the needs of people. But, it's all different people. There was a veteran, a very elderly veteran sleeping here a couple of nights ago. I don't understand how that can be, but that is the reality for this man. So I think people would be very surprised by the people that are using this service. And I really hope that this is something that can change and that we don't have a need for a warming center in the future.
I couldn't agree more. It is unbelievable that that's this nature of the world. And you look at Newport right now, we've got some folks that own 60 Airbnbs and enormous amounts of property. Look, we're not saying that you're going to abolish capitalism overnight, and that's a whole separate conversation. You can go on and so forth. And certainly there are people who are making donations. Mark Aramley, for example, who was on the podcast here last week, is of Bedjet. He's the city councilor. There are people who get into that philanthropy work. At the same time, we live in a haves and haves not world that's only expanding right now. Newport is a really good example of that. And I agree with you. A lot of people don't accept the reality that the crisis of the unhoused right now impacts a larger swath of people than ever before. It is sudden, it is significant, and it's only growing. What's your message right now to the Newport County community about the greatest need and challenges? What can someone who hears this and says, man, I want to make an impact? What can you do?
Well, so first I need to thank all the partners in this project, because we are definitely not doing this work alone. Kodak, Newport Mental Health, the cities of Newport and Middletown, their fire chiefs have been very much part of this project and this collaboration. But it's a Band-Aid, right? It's only a Band-Aid on a much bigger problem, as we all know. But people that want to help support, we are receiving funding from the Rhode Island Department of Housing to help with this. It's certainly not even coming close to covering all of the costs involved. The MLK Center is doing in-kind donation of this building, so we're not getting any kind of rental for this. So I think if people want to help, they can certainly donate to any of the organizations that I've just mentioned, and but also talk to people about this. This is a big crisis and it's growing. And, you know, we certainly can accommodate it for this winter, but if this continues to grow, you know, we have 25 programs that we do here at the MLK Center, and this space is used throughout the day. And we don't have another space. So once we grow out of this space, then it, you know, I don't know where we go from here as far as the warming center. So I think, you know, people can just also just be kind. You know, when you're walking down the street and you see somebody who you know needs help, just be kind. Tell them where they can go to get help. And, you know, I've learned a lot in this job that I'm so grateful to have. And one thing I've learned is that sometimes people overlook human beings. You know, I often say someone won't walk by a dog that's laying on the side of the road, but yet they walk by people laying on the side of the road all the time. And I really try to think about that in my own life. And I encourage others to try to do the same. So there are resources available for people. You don't need to feel that you need to give them money, but try to send them in the right direction.
Super well said, and really appreciate the work you do, Heather. It's the most important thing we can do, I think, for our community right now is take care of the most vulnerable. And it's people like you and the MLK Center that are actually doing the work, and it doesn't go unnoticed over here.
Well, thank you so much. And, you know, we're proud to be able to do this work. And we do it with the help of about 600 volunteers, some of which are behind us right now. So my staff and the volunteers and the donors who make this all possible, I'm grateful.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.